Hello, everyone, and welcome to the second session of Next Summit Digital, where we are speaking with leaders in the technology and heavy-duty fleet industries to discuss and understand how they are solving some of the biggest challenges they face in their industries. My name is Hurst Renner. I am a senior director here at Rubicon on the Smart City team, and I am joined today by two, potentially three wonderful panelists who are going to dive deeper into how to make money within solid waste. Before we jump into today's conversation, if you're not familiar with Rubicon, I want to give you just a very quick overview. Rubicon was founded in 2008 with a very specific mission to end waste. We are now a publicly traded company on the New York Stock Exchange and are the world's largest digital marketplace for waste and recycling services. We provide innovative software solutions to governments and private companies around the world. As I mentioned, today's session is going to focus on unlocking the financial potential in solid waste management, specifically solid waste and recycling operations, both for cities and private haulers. And when I reflect back on when I entered this industry, I was surprised by the sheer number of municipalities who, frankly, were struggling to make ends meet in their waste collection operations. We've seen customers since that run at a significant loss every year. We've seen customers who have had to stop their recycling programs to meet financial needs. On the flip side, we've also seen customers run very profitable operations, allowing them to reinvest into the operations or the services that they're providing, whether that be municipal or in the private sector. So today we want to speak about really how do we make money in solid waste? What are the secrets? Can we peel back the curtain a little bit? What operational efficiencies can we focus on? And there are a handful of questions we'll dive into to explore the potential for monetizing a solid waste and recycling operation, both on the municipal side and in the private sector as well. So I'm joined by three wonderful panelists today, and I'll ask each to introduce themselves. And Scott, why don't we start with you? If you wouldn't mind just introducing yourself and telling us a little bit more about the operation that you're running.
My name is Scott Givaudan. I work for the city of Glendale in Arizona. We operate residential side load, commercial front load, commercial roll-off. We also sweep the city streets. Container delivery is in there also. So we operate all facets of solid waste in our city. And I've been working with the city for 25 years with over 40 years of trash experience from my private life prior to the city of Glendale.
Wonderful. Thanks for being with us today, Scott. Randy, would you mind introducing yourself?
Yeah, my name is Randy Weldon. I'm with Honey Creek Disposal Service. We're a smaller hauler based out of Lawrence, Kansas. We've been in business since 1978, and we do residential commercial waste, side load, rear load, front load, and roll-off services.
Wonderful. Thanks for being with us, Randy.
Thank you.
And Chris, over to you. If you wouldn't mind introducing yourself, but because we're colleagues, I'm also going to throw in an additional ask. If you wouldn't mind kicking us off and giving just an overview of what you're seeing in the commodities market right now, that would be great.
Yeah, sounds good, Hurst. Thanks a lot, guys. My name is Chris Witherspoon. I'm Senior Director of Commodity Sales here at Rubicon and Vendor Relations. So that kind of encompasses all the recycling partners and vendor partners that we have as well. My team, just a little bit of background, we do tens of thousands of tons of OCC per month that goes through my team, almost 2 million pallets per month, thousands of tons of plastics and metals and all that stuff too, because we support a wide range of clients from Walmart all the way down to Chipotle and, restaurant. So we handle probably about 65 different commodity types. So that'll probably get into, the questions that Hurst is going to ask me about, where we can find money for you guys. So the state of the union, I guess, right now for commodities, we always talk about the big two. We talk about, paper and we talk about plastics. So OCC, I'm pretty excited to see where OCC is going. I'm forecasting next year that it's going to be even higher. When we started out the year for OCC, nationally, we were talking about $30 a ton. was the high side for recycled OCC or cardboard. Right now, as of this month, it's around $75. So we're seeing a slight trend, and I think we're going to continue to see that through Q4 and Q1 of 2024. On the plastic side, not to be, open up this call with Debbie Downer, but the plastic market has never been worse for recycled plastics. What we're seeing is the supply of virgin material, PP, PE, PET. It's so slim, and we have such a big demand, so it's just driving down the pricing so much. So those are the top two. So paper, I'm pretty excited about. Metal, I'm very excited about. Plastics is going to be a rough road ahead, Hurst.
Chris, thank you. I appreciate it, and we'll dive a little bit deeper into, I think, areas that you're seeing in the market where MRFs and companies are potentially leaving money on the table, and maybe some innovative solutions as well. But I'd like to turn first, I think, Randy, to you. Your perspective is very interesting, coming from a hauler that's been around since 1978, and the ability to build a book of business, particularly in the private market, is interesting to this conversation. Would you be willing to just explain what's been important to you in your growth over the years, when you've been building this book of business, and how have you gone about continuing to grow over the years?
I'd say the biggest thing is, you got to know your cost of what it costs to run your truck, per day. I think that's one of the biggest things, as far as growing your business, is knowing what it costs you to run your truck, what, employee costs are, benefit costs are, disposal, just everything leads back to that. And basically too is not, how do I want to say, more of a hub and spoke. Where's your home base? Where's your disposal area? And how far you're going? And what is your route density? I think those are key metrics that if you don't have that, then you don't know what you're doing, is what, we've come to the conclusion of. Unless I know what it costs me, then I'm lost, I guess is the best way to put it, because we have to know that cost. I mean, we look at stuff as we have many a times where we'll get a customer say that's, it's a 10-mile drive. Is it worth us going 10 miles out of our way to pick up that customer? And a lot of times it's not, when you look at it. As some of the different things that we've seen, through our history of our business, and just trying to, condense an area and not expand, keep going farther and farther out of an area to drum up business, but work the business within an area, to fill all your voids for profitability has been one of the key.
It makes sense, right? Uh-huh. These heavy duty vehicles, they're not getting the best gas mileage if you're going from one customer to the next customer is a 10-mile drive itself. Just on the density side of things. Mm-hmm. So how are you handling that from a residential perspective versus commercial? Are they similar methodologies from a routing perspective and density, or are they different for you?
They're very similar in the way we do both of them. We do have a lot of city contracts with different municipalities as well. So, a lot of it is us sitting down and looking at it to what is the most efficient, far as a routing goes. Where we run into, I guess, we do a lot of rural areas as well. And those are the areas that it's a little bit tougher as far as density goes, and trying to make routes that make the most sense is where it's probably, that's a bigger struggle than, say, within a municipality. It's, pretty straightforward on getting your route density down, as I see it. But rural areas are a little tougher sometimes, just from that standpoint, and filling those voids as well.
Understood. Thanks, Randy. And Scott, I think that opens up an interesting question, I think, about Glendale, about the density you see. You also run a residential and a commercial collection operation. So curious if you can speak a little bit about the makeup of Glendale itself, and then talk to us about why Glendale runs a commercial operation. We know, obviously, that not all municipalities in the country run. Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Scott.
No, that's okay. Yeah, we're probably one of the few that do commercial, but also there's several other cities in the greater metropolitan area that do commercial too. So I would say one thing that we want to do is to be able to give our Glendale businesses and apartment complexes transparent, competitive, affordable prices, and then also be a reliable option for those customers to come and say, hey, do you do this type of work? And so we are able to say, yes, we do. So we also do Luke Air Force Base too, out on the west side of town. So we're one of the few, we have a full IGA with Luke Air Force Base. So what Randy was talking about, running efficient and dense routes, that's our main factor. That's what we want to do to be able to give those options to the Glendale businesses and apartments. And I guess I'll just go into what we were talking about. The most important things that we need to make money or to run our routes. Okay, this is to make our routes dense and efficient. I know in our trash weighs about 71 pounds per cubic yard. It's not wet like the other parts, East Coast or West Coast. So we have an arid climate, we have dry trash, so it doesn't compact as easy. So we need to know our truck capacity, of course, truck costs, what Randy said, location to the facilities to dump, which is we own a landfill, which we have under our belt for the next several years. We just opened up a new cell, and we have an IGA with City of Phoenix with transfer stations. So we're able to pick our closest facilities to dump our trash for all of our businesses. And then we grid route, so we don't cross our paths. Trucks don't cross paths, and that way we're most efficient. We want to make sure our trucks are picking up anywhere from the high teens to the low 20s per productive hour. So anywhere from 18 to 28 cans per productive hour for our front loader, that's what we're shooting for, to be able to be productive and at least break even for what we need to do.
So you've gotten it down to that point, Scott, where it's 18 to 20 lifts in an hour in order to break even alone. Is that right? I mean, it's that finite of a difference between break even or losing money on an hourly basis.
Yeah, right. And we look for density too with front load, but we're because we compete with private enterprise here, we're not as dense as what we used to be. All right, so that's where we need to be, and then we have some expansion going on the west side of town. So if we do go west, we're going to need to have several customers out there before we head west to make it out there. Even though the landfill's out west, we still have to be choosy about where we go.
Right. Well, that's helpful. I think that ties nicely into what Randy was saying about density and understanding exactly where you're leaving from, where you're ending your day, et cetera. Chris, back to you. I'm curious. You and your team deal with commodities on a daily basis. You gave us a State of the Union at the beginning. Break down, speaking of cost here, break down for us, if you don't mind, what a clean stream of commodities does in terms of dollar figures. I mean, how much more can you actually sell a load if it's clean versus, contamination or a percentage of it being unclean?
Yeah, on the recycling side, making it clean is how you make the most money, obviously. Some of our clients that we have, we call, dirtier streams. And, for their cardboard and stuff like that, we're in the $40 range per ton on this dirty stuff. And then we take, some of our retailers and distribution centers that have like perfect streams, completely clean, and we're getting over $100 per ton. So it can vary, 60 to 80 bucks a ton just for OCC. And once we start getting into the metals and plastics, less contamination can even grade your commodities even differently. You'll go to a grade C plastic film, which, you're going to make pennies of the dollar, or you get grade A and then you're making 20, 30, 45 cents per pound, which is a huge difference. So having clean, uncontaminated stuff is a huge deal.
To avoid the obvious answer, which is, be more diligent about your separation of OCC. Have you seen creative solutions either from some of the companies you're working with or out in the market to help create a cleaner stream that you're seeing, garner closer to that 80 or 100 a ton versus the 40 for the dirtier streams?
Yeah, specifically, to like Randy and Scott, I come from the waste background as well. I ran garbage companies for a while too. So, it's just education, education, education. Not only with your residents, but with your commercial clients as well. Visual aids are the best. I remember, running a garbage company, these front load cans would have 17 stickers on them, bright yellow. This is what goes in, what does not go in. I think over communication is not a bad thing in this world, especially with contamination. So I would just over communicate, always, put out press releases, stuff in your invoice, big sticky statement that says, we do take class or we don't take class, those go a long way.
Yeah, the targeted education is something we see quite a bit on the city side as well. It's just trying to better understand where that contamination is coming from. Randy, when you're running specifically at Honey Creek and you're working on the commercial side of your operation, what are some overlooked areas you've seen in how other companies are building their commercial waste hauling business that you have focused on that has led to either making more money or continued growth over the years?
Oh, I think one of the biggest things that we didn't do years ago, before we did front load and we still had a lot of rear load dumpsters, was guys, picking stuff up next to commercial stops that weren't in the dumpster. And, one thing I think with the Rubicon platform, as well as, getting drivers to take pictures of overloaded stops, even block stops, what have you, it has made a huge difference in revenue far as, extra pickups during the week, customers that were at, 1 or 2 times a week now are 4 times a week because of all the additional waste. And, different things such as that have just made a huge difference in our operations.
That's great. And what Randy is speaking about is our heavy duty fleet software that we deploy with private haulers and also with municipalities. And if you're not familiar, quickly it gives the drivers an in-cab interface. So it's a software that runs on a phone or tablet. It comes in and out of a truck on a daily basis and allows drivers to do exactly what Randy just described. If I'm running a front load up route and I pull up to a dumpster and it's blocked or there's a gate code and I can't get to it, the driver can take a photo with that software, therefore allowing those in the office management in a portal to see exactly what's going on and then communicate with that customer as to why they weren't serviced or an extra charge if necessary along those lines. Scott, speaking of running that commercial waste operation in Glendale, curious how important, you spoke a little bit, and it'd be nice if you could expand on it, but the grid routing that you're doing, but how important specifically are those routes to running that efficient operation and being able to turn a profit instead of dropping below, say, those 18 pickups on an hourly basis?
Well, grid routing, it's very important. It's going to stop the trucks from crossing paths. So basically, if you have several grids that are on a Monday for a specific route, that route will just stay in that grid and be able to be able to pick up those stops per hour that we need. So that's very important. That's something I learned from a long time ago, is that this is easy way of routing, and it's the best way to be able to get the production needed. Unfortunately, Randy, being out in rural areas, that's really hard for him, being able to get as dense as what we are. We were denser, but it changed over a period of time. Talking about the photographs, we use those photographs also, for being able to show the customers of overages they might have, or locked gates that might be out there, or blocked cars. And then we're demoing some technology now for the trucks, for AI technology to track recycling, contamination. And that's going to be able to give us a clean stream that Chris needs to be able to get the best product, most bang for the buck, and show Luke Air Force Base, our partners, what we're running into, and then they can help us out and clean up that stream. So we have it on 2 side loaders and a front load. So it's pretty, we're excited seeing that technology also.
Yeah, it is. It's exciting technology, Scott. You're exactly right, and it's a good education tool. You know, Chris, you spoke about it a little bit, Randy and Scott as well. But the AI cameras that are coming from Rubicon are actually positioned in the hopper, so they're able to identify with no human interaction if a particular load is contaminated, what those contaminants are. So, Chris, I imagine that would be one avenue for hauling companies or companies in general to help clean their stream. But I'm curious, outside of dirty OCC, where do you see MRFs and companies leaving money on the table when it comes to commodities? Is it truly just how clean the stream is, or are there other factors that come into play here?
Yeah, I think there's a few things, to be honest with you, Hurst. You know, some of these municipalities are these singular MRFs. They're only taking, what they have to market. So they're not getting, the biggest prices. Leaning on somebody like Rubicon, we can just leverage all of these tons in the market that we already have. So instead of taking 1,000 tons a month to market, we're taking 70,000 tons a month. So our pricing our premiums are just different. We live kind of in a different world because of our amazing clients that we have. So that, and then, not really understanding, who the players are. I see people all the time that, they're like, hey, Joe's OCC has been picking up my stuff for, 50 years and they always pay on time. It's just, kind of being blinded and not understanding, the other players in the market, or somebody that's in a state next to you that you wouldn't even think about that has a huge presence, interstate. And that's just what we can recognize. We have over 1,600, recycling partners. And again, we do the 60 different commodities. So, some of these MRFs also, if they're, smaller or, just the city or singular, what I find a lot is they don't have enough volume of a certain material. So if it's, plastic film, they get a lot, they can't keep it long enough to make a tractor trailer size quantity of this stuff. And again, that's, something that we can do at Rubicon. We can grab the smaller volume stuff, incorporate it into our bigger clients' streams, and then still sell it. So we're not, handcuffed, by the smaller volumes like some sites would be.
That makes perfect sense. It sounds like flexibility, whether you're a municipality or on the private side, if you're a private company, is critical if you have space to help monetize and turn a greater profit based on those commodities you're collecting.
Exactly.
Randy, I'm curious. Last question for you that I have is, you're unique in that you're in the private hauling market, but also because you're running a commercial and a residential operation. You've clearly garnered that size to be able to handle both. I'm curious if the money drivers or the cost savings are the same in both, or are there differences?
Oh, I guess it just depends. I mean, from residential side, you're, of course, a cart is way less price than, say, commercial dumpsters are, and commercial dumpster prices have, shot through the roof. And I guess, carts have too. So there's little differences, but a lot of it I look at the same at the same time, just in efficiencies and everything else with it.
And you mentioned routing. When you're from a routing perspective, are you spending more time on the commercial side because your stops are further spread, or residential because it's dense and you may have to, break off route to go and dump and come back, more frequently on those tighter residential routes?
Oh, I think we probably spend more time on our residential routes, as far as efficiency there, because I believe being efficient on the residential side is the biggest thing. And a lot of it is, as far as routing and keeping drivers on a certain way of doing it. I mean, you can have a certain block unless we're getting them to run it the way we want them to run it. I mean, that can be the difference of an hour and a half in the day. If somebody has an idea that they can do it quicker, usually they can't, is what I always say. We have it set up for the most efficient way. And a lot of it is watching which way the driver is on the route and paying attention to that on a weekly basis to make sure, that their times are within what they should be. Because if you don't do that, that's when I think we run into, all of a sudden a route that was, taking, say, 7 hours, all of a sudden it's taking 10. Why is it taking 10? And I think, if you don't track the drivers and watch that, that's where your costs can get out of control pretty quickly.
Yeah, I mean, we joke that from a routing perspective, if I hopped in a truck and I was driving a route and my favorite lunch spot was in the middle of town, I would go to the northern end of town and drive towards the middle of town, get there around noon, and then finish my route. Definitely not the most efficient way to do it.
Yeah. Agreed.
So Scott, last question for you. I'm curious, from keeping finances and making money, or at bare minimum breaking even in a municipal operation, what are the most common issues you're seeing in your operation that are holding you back from breaking even or making the money? Is it efficiencies? Are there, on the commercial side, is it locked gates? What are things you're running into on a consistent basis?
Right now, I guess truck downtime. The most current issue that we've had is downtime. The supply chain for parts we're having a hard time getting our parts in to get the trucks up. So that's been an issue for us. The guys, when they're out there, they pick up the trash. They pick it up and put it down and go. So the guys know what it takes to get the job done. It's just giving them the truck to do the job. That's where we're what we're doing. So we get the job done, but takes a little bit longer than what we want right now.
And when those trucks go down, I mean, it sounds to me like you're using the Rubicon system, but some sort of software in general is going to be beneficial, I imagine, to maximizing the existing resources you have, right? If a truck goes down, you're able to throw me into a different truck and Randy into another truck to try and cover those extra routes. Is that fair?
And that's when we are able to, a lot of that's behind the scenes when we're, us showing the drivers what needs to be picked up. We, move the stops or lasso the stops to move them into the different routes. And that information is automatically shown to the drivers. That way they know what they need to pick up and what's been moved onto their route. So, and it's in route order also. So it's real easy to manipulate the routes behind the scenes to show the drivers what we need to get done. So that was a big problem back in the day. It was all paper, and the driver's memory, and things would be forgotten at that time. So it's fresh, it's moved, it's picked up, and it's the system itself is it's pretty much anybody can use it within a few minutes. So it's a good system.
Agreed.
So I want to finish with just a couple more questions, and then get some final thoughts from you, Randy, and Scott and Chris. But then we'll open it up to some Q&A for the attendees. So if you have any questions, feel free to just type those into the chat, and we'll address as many as we can. Randy, I couldn't tell if I cut you off. Are you going to jump in there?
No, I was just going to say what Scott was talking about as far as downtime with truck issues. And one of the things that we do as well to help with, some of the issues, I guess, of trucks en route too, is running the GeoTab along with the Rubicon, so that then we can see, any DTC alerts that come up on the truck. So, before we send a mechanic out, we know what's going on with the truck. Is it something we can bring the truck back to address, versus do we have a shorted sensor and, the truck's not in a limp mode and can continue on? If it's a coolant sensor, different things like that have helped our operation as well, because it's, we're not sending somebody out blind in a way to know what's wrong with the truck. So little things like that have helped our operation out.
Trying to be proactive instead of reactive, Randy.
Correct.
Is, I think.
Yes.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So Randy, final question, or maybe just a final thought from you before we move into some Q&A. If you had to boil it down into one factor, what is the most important factor to saving money within your operation? It can be residential, it can be commercial. I'm just curious if you can pinpoint it, and if you can, what it really is.
I still say it's efficiency of how quick you can get the route done. I think that's our number one thing. is just being efficient is the key to it. Just like Scott had mentioned as well, the routing of it is everything. I mean, back in the day, yes, it used to be paper sheets. Having a platform with the route set in a static way that they're doing it every single week, that's your efficiency. If we don't have that, then we're not efficient, is the way I look at it. And then like Scott had said too, making those changes, if we see something that, hey, this can move here or move there, it's easy to do. Moving stops is simple in the platform.
That's helpful. I mean, there is no doubt that the efficiencies gained by what you're talking about, Randy, those small changes, they add up so quickly. It doesn't matter if you're in the private sector or the public sector working for a city.
Exactly.
Chris, back to you for some final thoughts. But I'm just curious. You've spoken a lot about how companies can hopefully help to generate a cleaner stream. You've spoken about the market. I'm curious from your perspective what the single most important thing these waste generators can focus on to help monetize their commodities. If I'm a big generator, what can I be doing proactively on a daily, weekly, monthly basis so that what I'm taking to the market is going to generate more revenue?
Yeah, I think this is a super selfish plug, but lean into leverage. I mean, even if you have the best program, there's somebody out there that's got more leverage in the market to get even better pricing. So even if you're doing everything the right way, there's another way. So, even on my team, we handle all the equipment. So I'm glad that you said saving money too. If I'm buying 50 compactors a month, obviously I'm going to get better pricing than, a city that's buying, 2 a quarter. So, Rubicon can do all that kind of thing for anybody on the call, really. So if you think about something that you need in this industry, in this space, I think I just leave you with lean into leverage, lean into the Rubicon model for us to not only make you more money, but to save you more as well.
That's great. Thank you, Chris. And Scott, I'll throw it to you for some, no question for you, but if you had any final thoughts, and then we'll open up some Q&A.
So let's see, I guess we're going through the re-optimization project with, you there?
Yeah.
Okay. So we're going through the optimization project with residential right now. So that's our main priority. The commercial optimization I'm doing by myself right now with my team to optimize the grid routing aspect for front load. But we're seeing, so the main project right now is the optimization of the residential side load. So that's about halfway done, and we're moving into the recycle side. So, and then the other part was the front load that we're working through on the optimization, but that's by ourselves. We're not, we're doing that by ourselves.
Got it. Okay, that's great. Thank you. And I'll come right back to you, Scott. We have a question focused on the routing that you were speaking about earlier. The question is, did you do any analysis before and then after implementing the new routes? And we're interested in what differences you saw in the pickups per hour, savings in gas mileage, et cetera. And we can connect you with the person who's asking the question as well, but curious if you have any sort of high level thoughts about the before and after analysis.
So for front load?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. So front load is more of what I know I need to get to. We, from the private enterprise where I was at, that's as a city, that's where I need to get to. And we're going through the reroute to get there, to make it the best possible efficiency as possible right now. So that's more of what I know I need, where I need to go. We're not there. I know we need to get there. So.
Okay. And then how about the residential side? Did you do much analysis prior? I mean, I know that we were, we partnered together, but do you have a benchmark that you're going to be comparing to after the new routes are completed?
Oh yeah, we have the benchmark that was laid out from previous, from a year and a half ago before we started the reroute. So we're looking at mile savings, fuel savings, labor savings with the 3 days that we've completed on residential right now. So we're seeing significant savings on all facets there. And then we're going to be implementing Monday and Thursday in November. So that's about done. All the residential refuse optimization will be done. And then we're going to go right into the residential recycle optimization. So, and I think they're working on that now. So I pulled out a little bit from that, but that the team is, we're continuing on with that project and hope to finish it pretty soon to get the full savings that we need.
Wonderful. Thanks, Scott. And we'll get you connected with the person who asked that question. Chris, I think this is more towards you, but Randy, you could potentially weigh in as well. So the question is, can you speak to the value of the software as provided to the residential and commercial waste generators? So I think Chris talking about our network and what that network provides for both the companies and the buyers and the sellers in the commodity market as well would be helpful if you wouldn't mind covering.
Well, I mean, it's twofold. Whatever, the haulers are seeing, the private haulers or the cities, we get that too on the client side. So, again, with education, Randy was talking about, the front load can with all the crap on the side of it that the driver's just been historically doing. It's an educational piece for them for not only right sizing their container, but, right cycling as well. Maybe all this stuff on the side is a lot of cardboard boxes, and it's in a garbage can. And then we can recognize from the same photos on the client side to say, hey, we might be able to recycle this instead. So take all that recycling stuff from the trash can and get another front load. So I think the biggest, thing for the commercial clients and the residential is just, the transparency for visibility on both sides of that equation. So whatever helps the hauler is going to ultimately help the client as well.
That's great. Thanks, Chris. I don't know, Randy, if you have any thoughts on that or not. It may be a reach to try and bring you into that.
Yeah, there's a way.
Please.
Yeah, far as on that end. Yes. Yep.
Okay. So one of the questions that we got as well is, can the Rubicon software connect to various waste container fullness solutions via API in order to maximize efficiencies? I can take that one. The short answer is yes. We have an active integration with a company called Big Belly. You have seen Big Bellies if you've been in any major airport or a major city around the country in the last 10 years, I would say. But we're able to track exactly how full these containers are. I should say Big Belly is. Through an open API, we're able to ingest that data, and then you can actually build routes using Rubicon's system based on the fullness of each of these containers. So the idea, Randy, you talked about efficiency. The idea here is let's help reduce driving around to these public waste containers if they're not already full. So Big Belly is currently is our partner via that open API.
We've done that same thing before as well with was it Innovo, I believe was the name of the company. We did some commercial recycling with those sensors. That's great.
Yeah, there's no doubt that there is opportunity to be more efficient when it comes to public waste, and the API makes that possible. So Randy, this is for both you and for Scott. We've gotten some questions about how many stops you have on a typical residential garbage route. It could be recycling as well, but if we could start with garbage, that would be great.
Typically, I'm going to say it depends on how far we're driving, but anywhere from the low side of say 700 to the high side of I think one of our biggest is just under 1,000.
Got it.
And that's the same with recycling because we're running the same routes for trash and recycling.
And Randy, just out of total curiosity, I mean, do you have an idea or sense of what the participation set out rate looks like on the recycling side?
Yeah, I would say, well, it's kind of changed, of course, with the pandemic, everything really shifted on that end. But I would say we're probably now at anywhere 60 to 70% set out rate is what we're seeing on recycling. I mean, it's really been a change, a big game changer in the amount of recycling. I would say, before the pandemic, I would say it was it was low at times. I mean, there's times where the routes didn't seem like there was anything. And then overnight, the tonnage doubled. It was crazy.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. That's something. Did you do, it could obviously just be thanks to the amount of waste that we're generating through COVID, but did you have to do targeted education or anything like that, outreach to folks, or was it just the increase and you left it?
Well, no, we did a bunch of different stuff with our cities that we have contracts with. And it was just different outreach to that through, their websites as well, and just, different avenues to educate. But I guess the main thing is, all of our containers have on the top of the do's and don'ts, what we take, and that seems to help for the most part. And if we pull up to a container that say, you can see there's a plastic bag in it or what have you, we have tags to put on containers too, and educating the driver to, hey, put this on there, leave it, so they know they've done wrong. That's helped us immensely. And just, educating our drivers to educate the public makes the biggest impact of leaving the container and telling them you have to fix the problem before we'll pick it up, is what we've done.
And Chris, I can see you nodding, but that comes full circle to trying to, creating a cleaner stream and finding efficiencies, Randy, by not having to do as many go backs necessarily. It's a full circle topic. So Scott, just to you, curious on the municipal side, how many stops are you looking at on a typical garbage route, residential side?
Yeah, so our residential, we service 55,000 homes in the city. During the day, our routes run 1,200 cans for refuse for our refuse drivers, 3 loads to the landfill, and then also recycle. We run 1,500 containers. Approximately 85% put out rate. And so that we start servicing, and so the optimizations helped us on refuse be able to lower the hours of service. So the 1,200 cans is a norm for the industry in the valley here. So because of the density that we have with all the homes that are close by.
Scott, out of personal curiosity, have you tracked similar increases in participation in set out rates post pandemic, like Randy is seeing?
So I believe it has, because we just completed a put out rate, and that's how we figured our new routes for our recycle. Because we're at like 70-75%, so at least 10% more post pandemic. That's what we're looking at, and so that's how we built that's how we'll be building our routes in the upcoming optimization for recycle.
Got it. Okay. And then sort of a follow-up to this, Scott, is how many hours per route per day are you looking at? I think there's some question around the stops per route. Is it per driver? Is that citywide? Is it route by route? Does it differ?
It's all 1,200 per day, per driver. That's what we and it's a 10-hour workday. We service 5 days a week. So it's Monday through Friday. We have 5 sections in the city, and we have anywhere from 8 to 10, or maybe even 11. We go from 10 up to 13, depending on the day. Routes, 1,200 per driver on refuse. So it looks like we're figuring on the recycle, we're looking at approximately 9 routes per day for the put out rate that we're figured for the upcoming optimization.
That's great, Scott. Thanks for peeling back the curtain a little bit on your operation, but also where you think you're going with the optimization as well. So those are the questions that we received from the audience. I've really enjoyed the conversation. Chris, Scott, and Randy, thank you very much for joining. If you happy to toss it one more time around the room. If there's anything else you're burning on or you'd like to speak about, please go ahead. Scott, I'll start with you, then Chris, we can go to you and Randy to finish. But thank you for joining me today.
No, I just enjoyed speaking about what was going on in Glendale. We were the first city to bring you on board inside Arizona, and there's a lot more cities to come in the valley here, even in Arizona itself. So we're looking forward to having a big team here in Arizona with your company.
Well, thanks, Scott. I hope you know how much we value the partnership. It's always fun to be with you. Randy?
Yeah, thank you for having me. I appreciate it. It was good to hear some different insight from Scott as well, and just different and how similar, the city is doing it as a private, in my opinion. We're kind of all in the same boat, as I would say.
Yeah, I agree. It's been fun. I mean, I think sometimes you think that people could be so far apart because it's public sector versus private sector, but you're right. The operations sound very similar.
Yes.
Yes.
Good learning lessons from a financial perspective, I think, for both, I hope. And Chris, I'll give you the final word. You opened us with the State of the Union. What do you have to close us out with?
Yeah, I think I just want to leave everybody with, one person's trash is another person's treasure. So if it's definitely not municipal solid waste and you want to make some money off of it, there are options out there. So, never get scared with volumes or anything like that. And Hurst, I hope you share my email address with the audience. If anyone has any questions with commodities and making money and opportunities, I'd love to help.
Absolutely. We'll absolutely do it. And I'll give you the free plug right now. It's chris.witherspoon@rubicon.com. So what you see on the screen, that's my email. It's the exact same for Chris, just with chris.witherspoon. Thank you all very much for joining us today for our second session. We hope that you will join us in November for our third session of Next Summit Digital, where we will discuss customer service. Until then, be well, and we'll see you in November.
Thank you.
All right. Thanks.
Bye-bye.